Uttarakhand Chief Minister Vijay Bahuguna is in the eye of a storm for government's inept handling of the present crisis, despite critics panning the government for unchecked construction activity that's been going on in the state at the cost of fragile ecology. He's unmoved and defiant to some extent. Here's the Uttarakhand Chief Minister in an exclusive chat with Headlines Today's Managing Editor Rahul Kanwal.
As Uttarakhand deals with its most severe tragedy in the last several decades, to talk about the relief and rehabilitation work, I'm joined by the state's Chief Minister Vijay Bahuguna. Sir, the entire country's eyes currently focused on Uttarakhand and this massive tragedy. Have you been able to get a full sense of the enormity of the task that you have at hand?
You see, we are passing through an unprecedented calamity, and I call it a Himalayan tsunami. It's not one area, one district, but I think 3/4 of the state of the hilly region is badly affected. Now the access to these areas are by road or by air. We don't have many aerodromes or helipads in these hilly terrains. It is only traffic used to move by roads. Now 500 roads are absolutely not serviceable, and 200 bridges have been washed out. Kedarnath faced the fury of nature and some cloudburst or some lake overflowing. Now Kedarnath and the 20-kilometer stretch up to Gaurikund has been absolutely washed out, and there has been enormous casualty. I cannot give you the exact figures because they are in debris, and unless until the army goes on foot and gives me a feedback, we cannot give the actual figures. There are people who are surviving, but they are in such areas where the helicopters are not being able to reach because of no helipads and because of bad weather. The army generals are here and they are operating in that area. The NDRF team is here. So our first mission is to save people who are alive, and that is mostly in the Kedarnath valley. Similarly was the position in Gaurikund, because there are about 7,000-8,000 people stranded in Gaurikund. They want to be evacuated. Similarly is the position in Badrinath, Gangharia, where people are there. Air Force has pressed 12 of its helicopters, and 12 helicopters have been hired by the state. Now even there is a limit of the number of choppers which can fly into a particular area, and because they have created some helipads, and in fact I would congratulate the Air Force and my civilian pilots that they are doing a work of a brave heart. The way they are landing at absolutely very small fields. So the problem is enormous, and how to evacuate those who are stranded. I know people from all over the country are here and they are worried. We are trying our best, but those people who are saved and are at a safe place, they need not worry. It will take us time to evacuate them, but then there is no imminent threat to their life.
In fact, we've seen some comments, some from people in your party, some from the opposition, saying that the death toll is not in 100, 200 range. It's actually going to run into several thousands. What is your assessment of how grave the toll could be?
I have already told the Prime Minister when I met him that is in hundreds. And as a Chief Minister, I cannot give you a specific figure unless I have a feedback from the ground. But the death toll is enormous. There's no doubt about it. What our concern is now is to save the people who are stranded, to rescue them, to provide them food. It's a very massive exercise which the Army and the Air Force is undertaking. It is a deluge, and all the resources of the state government have been put into motion. The roads which are blocked, we are now trying to create alternate routes, and we have succeeded in creating some alternate routes, and the traffic is being diverted. It will take some time, but I am confident that with the support of the central government, the Prime Minister has been very generous. The UPA chairperson has been very generous. We have no shortage of funds. The President of India called us. Army generals are with us. The Air Force Air Commanders is here. It's a combined effort of all forces, everybody, that we rescue these people and we evacuate the stranded tourists.
Some of the people that we spoke to outside your residence, at other places, getting very anxious, very frustrated. They feel that help is very slow to come by. They're running out of batteries, they're running out of food, out of water, and they feel the state government is not able to reach out to them.
You see, I appreciate their concerns. I know you see people have come from here, they have come from Maharashtra. Difficulties there, it's a hilly terrain. Had been in a plain area, it would have been easy for us. It's a hilly terrain area where the roads have buildings have been snapped. So the only way to deliver food, water is through air. And as I told you, there's a limit of choppers which can fly. The maximum have been put into service. It'll take some time, but there is a problem. I have been appealing to my local people to come forward and help the stranded tourists. I have said that all our guest houses, all our tourist houses, free accommodation, free food for tourists, for anybody. I am providing them tickets by road, by train. The state government is paying for all that. Money is no constraint, resources are no constraint. The mode of delivery, the method of delivery, how do I reach? It's only the army, I think, and the air force which will have to play an outstanding contribution to serve the mankind of this state.
So there's also a concern that a large part of what we are witnessing is a man-made tragedy. The fact that there's been so much rampant construction all along the river bank, giving the river no scope to enlarge in case of heavy rainfall, which has been the case all this while. So man playing around with nature and nature's fury striking back at.
So that is one way to look at things. But the practical way is that, you see, 330 millimeters of rain in one day in Dehradun is not man-made. Cloudburst over Kedarnath is not man-made. And the entire towns of Uttarkashi, Rudraprayag, Srinagar, Haridwar were on the banks of the river for centuries. And such a incident has never occurred or happened. One of the reasons why the flooding is taking place is because of the river beds. Now, you know, the mining is not permissible by the orders of the courts and by the Ministry of Environment. As a result of which boulders are coming into the rivers, material is coming into the rivers which we are not being able to lift. Now the riverbed is increasing, as a result of which the water is starting overflowing in the nearby areas. So we have to have a very practical understanding of the problem, and there are no ego problems, there are no issues. I agree that there should be no constructions on the riverbeds, but these constructions are there since ages. Even the entire township of Haridwar, if you will see Uttarkashi, Bhatwari, they were all on the banks of rivers. Something has to be done, and I'm not an anti-environment, or I'm not an anti-environmentalist, but as a chief minister of a state which has 70% of forest cover, I can't touch the forest. I'm preserving the forest. Now these rivers, if I'm not used to generate power, that I'm also saying, you see, projects which were cleared by the Ministry of Environment, which were cleared by the Ministry of Forests, if you prohibit constructions activities, if you prohibit road activities, even for a construction of house, you have to go to the Government of India for approval. So these are certain problems, issues which we had raised. And in the draft notification which was issued, it was 100 meters both sides of the river was declared as eco-sensitive. And when the final notification came, it is 100 miles on both sides of the river. The original proposal, the draft notification was for 40 square miles. Now you have got 4,000 square miles. So you see, you have to, there's a resentment amongst the local people, because all their economic activities will come to a standstill. And I think if you go and propagate such a idea or thought in those areas, then you face mob fury. And we are a government, we have to also think of development. But as I told you, I'm not opposed to environment, and no person living under the sun would oppose an issue of environment. But this entire calamity is not struck on that region. Try to understand. Kedarnath, where this valley which has been struck by this deluge, or the other valleys, they are not under the ecosystem.
No. In December 2012, the center notified a 100-kilometer stretch along the Bhagirathi River from Gangotri to Uttarkashi and called this the eco-sensitive zone, which meant that no development could take place over there. You led a delegation to meet the Prime Minister. You opposed this. Now, this is a ecologically fragile area. As the Chief Minister, as the local custodian, if you oppose measures to preserve the ecology, then questions will be asked about whether man really has brought this upon himself.
You see, the state assembly of the previous government, when the BJP was in power, the BJP government and the assembly then, and then when I took over as chief minister a year ago, my cabinet, what we have decided, what we are requesting the central government is, we are not opposed to any area being declared as eco-sensitive, but please strike a balance between preserving of ecology and development. Now this is a border area, this is an economically backward block. No, you see, there are no major dams. Or as I have told you earlier, all these power projects, whatever the number being, were not cleared by the state government. All these power projects have been cleared by the Ministry of Environment, by the Ministry of Power. And they are on the run of the river. No area is being inundated that they will come under this. Only the Tehri Dam and the Tehri Lake. You see, we had to displace persons. But think otherwise, had the Tehri Dam not been there, I think the whole of Western UP would have been washed away. Small dams, even the environmentalists don't oppose small dams. So let us work out. Then there's a flow of river. What I have said is that we don't want that the river should dry out. Let the environmentalists decide what should be the flow of the river. But if I do not generate hydro energy, you fix the you fix the say how much energy I will generate. I have no problem. But you have to have a practical view. You see, Uttarakhand cannot survive on buying power. The entire economy of my state depends on hydro energy and tourism. For tourism, I require capital investment. For this hydro energy, let there be a very practical and pragmatic assessment. Flow of the river, whatever the Ministry of Environment says, we'll agree to it. Look at China. See the number of power projects which are on the rivers. And then why only Alaknanda and Bhagirathi? What about other rivers in Himachal, in Arunachal, in the entire Himalayan region? It is not. Now what we are doing is we are making an environmental impact assessment. Since I have become the Chief Minister, not even a single power project of even 1 megawatt has been sanctioned. Dams not been there, especially of Tehri Dam, as I have told you earlier. You see the Tehri Lake, which is 70 kilometers in length and 1,000 meters deep. There, I am not joining any issues at this moment, because whatever is necessary to preserve the environment, the governments of the day will always say yes. But also think about development. What happens, you sanction a project, the project starts working. People of that area get employment. They take loans from the banks, they buy vehicles, they construct houses to become guest houses. Now they have taken money from the banks, and then after 4 years, say, this is shelved. No, the local people, they get agitated, because whatever investment comes in these hilly regions, it brings about an economic development. So there is a problem. I agree with it, and we have to sit down. And it's not that the BJP or the Congress is opposed to preservation of ecology or environment.
Tell me, before we end, Chief Minister, how much time do you think before Uttarakhand is able to return to normalcy?
Our ecological department has to come and visit the temple and see how safe it is, because it has come under tremendous pressure from devotees. The renovation of the temple will be done by the state government, there is no problem, but the Archaeological Survey of India has to come there. As so far as the evacuation of the tourists who are stranded here, I think in 2 weeks' time we should be able to get them out by new roads or by air connectivity through helicopters. The damage which has been done to our villagers, to our drinking water lines, our power structure, our roads, this is going to take, I think, I'm not sure, it take considerable time. And resources are no crunch, because Government of India has given us money, but we do have the manpower.
Big task ahead of you. We wish you all the best, Chief Minister Vijay Bahuguna, for joining us in Headlines today. Thank you very much. Thank you.